everyone. Today we are going to review what we have been learning about hypothesis testing, including writing a set of hypotheses, finding the test statistic, as well as interpreting p-values and making conclusions from our p-values. But we are going to add on how to simulate the situation we're given using note cards as well. So first, let's recap what we've learned about writing hypotheses and find the test statistic. Again, we're continuing to kind of investigate that question we've been asking ourselves about, does home field advantage exist in the NFL? So today we're going to be solely talking about the Arizona Cardinals. So we're talking about the 2008 data. Here in the two-way table is the information that displays the results of their season, displaying where the game was played along with the outcome of the game. So the first thing I want you to do here is state the alternative and the null hypotheses. If you want to, you can pause the video right now, or you can work along with me, but now would be a good time to pause. So I'm taking a look. The first thing I actually want to do is kind of calculate the test statistic to see where did they do better, home or on the road. So it looks like they had 6 wins at home and 3 wins away. They play 8 games at home and on the road, so their home winning percentage is going to be greater. So the name of our test statistic is going to be the difference in winning percentage. And where did they do better? They did better at home, so we're going to subtract the home winning percentage minus the away winning percentage. Okay, so in order to figure out the home winning percentage, it's going to be 6 divided by 8, 6 home wins divided by 8 total games played at home, minus their away winning percentage would be 3 away wins divided by the total 8 games played away. So you can type that in your calculator. Make sure you put parentheses around each fraction. And you get 37.5% or 0.375. Okay, so again, the name of our test statistic is the difference in winning percentage, home minus away, while the value of our test statistic is going to be the 37.5% or the 0.375, depending on if we're looking at percentages or proportions here. So let's state our hypotheses. Our null hypothesis, remember, is what we assume is true going in the hypothesis test. So we're assuming the 2008 Cardinals have the same ability to win at home and on the road. Now, based on this information, what are we trying to prove is true? Well, we're trying to prove that the 2008 Cardinals have a greater ability to win at home. Okay, so that's kind of a review of the last 2 days. So this is what we're going to add that's new today. We're adding how to simulate this situation of what actually happened to the Arizona Cardinals in their 2008 season using note cards. So normally if we were in class, you'd be paired up with a partner doing this activity. So I'm just going to kind of describe the activity and then give you some data to work off with for your dot plot so we can make a conclusion. So it says, note that the activity we'd be about to do would assume that there is no difference in ability between home and away games. So assumes no difference in ability between home and away. Okay? And remember, that's what we assume is true when we're going into a hypothesis test. So that's important. And no matter how we shuffle things, we're always going to get an overall record of 9-7 because that's exactly what happened to the Arizona Cardinals in their season. So, how would we simulate this? First, we would look at your two-way table. Use your two-way table to help you fill out these blanks. We would take a total of 16 note cards. And that's what you would normally have in front of you in class. In class, you'd be given 16 note cards. Now, I'm trying to model what exactly happened this season. So I would label 9 of the note cards as win to represent the 9 wins the Cardinals had this season, and 7 as loss to represent the 7 losses that they had. Then I would shuffle and deal out 2 piles. One pile is going to represent the home games, and the other pile is going to represent the away games. So look at your two-way table. Your two-way table shows you that they played 8 total games at home, so you need 8 note cards in one pile, and that would represent the outcomes of the home games, as well as 8 note cards in the other pile to represent the outcomes of the away games. Now, for each pile individually, you would calculate the winning percentage. And remember, we want the difference. In mathematics, difference means subtraction. So you'd calculate the winning percentage for each pile and subtract. And we'd be subtracting home minus away. So, one example I could get if when I did this is I could shuffle my cards, and in my home pile I had 5 wins out of 8 total games. So that would be, my winning percentage would be 5 out of 8. Minus, and then I had, for my away pile, 4 wins out of 8 games. So 5 out of 8 minus 4 out of 8, if I type that into my calculator, that would give me a difference of 12.5%. Okay, so then we would finish the activity. You and your partner would each do 3 trials, and we'd record it on a class dot plot. So go ahead and label your dot plot simulated difference in winning percentage, home minus away, because that's the information we're going to be displaying. Now we're going to put 0 right in the center, and then each big increment will go by 25%. So 25, 50, 75, 100. Now keep in mind, we can also record negative values here too. So negative 25, negative 50, negative 75, negative 100. And the reason why negative numbers make sense here, negative numbers would be if in the simulation, in the trial, the team actually did better on the road or in their away games than in their home games. So that is a possibility here. So that is important to have the negative values listed. That is definitely a possibility here. So here were the results of 25 trials I did for my simulation. So you can go ahead and record these dots on your dot plot. I had 3 dots above negative 37.5%. And it's up to you if you want to draw on the dots or just write the number. 8 dots above negative 12.5%. 10 dots above 12.5%. 3 dots above negative 37, or I'm sorry, positive 37.5%. And 1 dot above 62.5%. So below, you guys, you may want to highlight this on your notes, is a little template whenever you're asked to describe how to simulate a certain scenario, something that you can follow to help guide you. You're not allowed to use this on your test, but it's certainly a good guide as we're trying to get used to this, working through the notes and the homework. So let's take this information from the dot plot, interpret our p-value, and use our p-value to make our conclusion. So on the next page it says, let's find the p-value for the Arizona Cardinals problem. Remember, always compare to the test statistic, okay? So look above. What was our test statistic, the value? It was 37.5%, okay? So that's where I'm going to draw my line in my dot plot. Remember, it's all the dots that are at or above the test statistic. So I'm going to draw my line at my test statistic, the 37.5%. And count all the dots that are at that value and higher. So if I count all the dots at that value and higher, that would be 4 out of a total of 25 dots, because there were 25 trials, which would mean 4 out of 25 is 16%. So my p-value here is 16%. So it says, interpret the p-value. And you're going to kind of want to use your dot plot to help you. So there is a 16% chance. So how likely is this to happen by random chance? Well, there is a 16% chance. Now go back to your dot plot. Use the label on your dot plot to tell you, what is this talking about? It's talking about the simulated difference in winning percentage, home minus away. So there is a 16% chance of getting a simulated difference in winning percentage home minus away of what value? Where did we look at in our dot plot? Well, we looked at the value of 37.5% and higher just by random chance. Okay, so it's pretty likely to happen. It happens this is likely to happen just enough by 16% of the time, just by random chance. So, what are we going to make that conclusion based on? Sorry, you guys, I just realized I wrote it up here. Your interpretation can go right down here. Doesn't matter. So, remember, our p-value was 16%. In our conclusion, always compare our most common significance level is the 5% level. So we're going to compare that to 5%. Since 16% is greater than 5%, so it's likely to happen by random chance, therefore it's not really special. So we do not have convincing evidence that the 2008 Cardinals Now, recall back to the last 2 days. Which hypothesis do we always reference in our conclusions? We always reference HA, the alternative hypothesis. Just like in a judicial trial, they always reference whether or not the defendant is guilty. They never say the defendant is innocent. They just simply say the defendant is not guilty. So that's what we're going to do here. We do not have convincing evidence that the 2008 Cardinals have a greater ability to win at home than on the road. Okay? So we're going to practice this again, just with a different team from 2008. Now we're going to look at the 2008 Panthers and how they did in this season. So their overall record this season was 12-4, with an impressive home record of 8-0. Meaning, so take a look. If their total wins was 12 and their total losses was 4, and they went 8-0 at home, that means their away record must have been 4-4. Okay, if you want, you can pause the video real quick and try and organize that data into a two-way table. Okay, so that's how your data should have come out. You can double check a few things. Look at home and wins. The cell for that, that should be 8. Okay, your total. The NFL plays a total of 16 games in the regular season, so your grand total in the bottom corner should be 16. Okay, 8 total games at home, 8 total games on the road. So what would your test statistic be? Your test statistic, the description would be home winning percentage minus away winning percentage. So go ahead, take a minute, look at your two-way table, and calculate the difference between the winning percentages here. Eight home wins divided by 8 total games played. 4 away wins divided by 8 total games played gives us a difference of 50%, or 0.5. Okay? So remember, that's our test statistic. That's the value of our test statistic. Okay? So take a second, go ahead, write your hypotheses for the 2008 Panthers. Okay, remember, make sure to include the year because how one team or athlete does from one year to the next makes a difference. The 2008 Panthers have the same ability to win at home and on the road. We're trying to prove, based on the data we are given, that the 2008 Panthers have a greater ability to win at home rather than on the road. It's up to you if you want to write this part in your alternate hypothesis. Hypotheses are written together, so this information will always be included in the null hypothesis. Okay? So this is the new part. What we just learned earlier is how would we describe how to simulate this? Again, we need a total of 16 note cards because that's how many games they played. Now we're going to either label them as win or as loss. So take a look. How many total wins? Use your two-way table to help you. Did the Panthers have that season? They had 12 total wins, 4 total losses. So label 12 of your note cards as win and 4 of your note cards as loss. Shuffle and deal 2 piles. We need 1 pile to represent the home games, the outcome of the home games, and 1 pile to represent the outcome of the away games. And they play an equal number of games at home and on the road. Keep in mind, you guys, this will not always necessarily be true, okay? They might not always play the same number of games at home and on the road, or whatever it is, the 2 different contexts we're comparing. I think one of the problems in your homework talks about a tennis player serving with the wind versus away from the wind or into the sun. So that's not always going to be the same. So just pay close attention to the information given to you in the problem and the numbers given to you in the two-way table to help you with that. Plus, you know, if you're given a total like 65, there's no way to divide that number evenly into 2 whole numbers. So keep that in mind. So for each pile, we're going to compute or calculate the winning percentage. And we're going to subtract home minus away. And as always, repeat many times. Okay? If you want to, you can make a note that this right here will help you in your homework with number 16D and number 17, part C2. Okay? So keep that in mind. Okay, so subtract home minus away percentages, and then as always repeat, because we're not going to do this just once. The more trials we have, the more accurate our p-value is going to be. Okay, so if we were in class right now, we would have skipped the note card part and actually doing this with a partner. I just went ahead and plugged this information into an applet online and got this data for us. So this is the result of 100 trials. So please keep that in mind. And notice that these numbers are just written as proportions. That's totally fine. And it was the simulated difference in proportion of wins, home minus away. If you want to add that in, that's up to you. So it says calculate the estimate for the p-value. Remember, in order to calculate our p-value, we need our test statistic. So go back to the front. What was the test statistic for the Panthers example? It's 50% or 0.5. So that's where I'm going to draw my line on my dot plot. I'm going to include all the dots at 0.5 and higher. I'm drawing it there because that's my test statistic. Okay, so there were 3 dots out of 100 trials, so calculating the p-value makes it easy, just 3%. So interpret this value. What does this 3% mean? It means there is a 3% chance of getting a simulated difference the label on your dot plot to help you. Read the labels on your dot plot, you guys. They tell you what the dot plot is displaying. Simulate difference in proportion of wins. Home minus away of, well, what value did we look at to get our 3%? We looked at 0.5 and higher. Just by random chance. Okay, so 3%, that's unlikely to happen. So the fact that it actually happened to the Panthers in their 2008 season, I'm thinking that the Panthers did have home field advantage, that they actually were more likely to win at home than on the road, okay? So remember, for our conclusion, we always start off by comparing to the 5% significance level. So compare your p-values to 5%. Since 3% is less than 5%, we do have convincing evidence and remember, we always reference our alternative hypothesis and our conclusions. We do have convincing evidence that the 2008 Panthers have a greater ability to win at home than on the road. So I realized that was a lot of information. We tied up everything we need to know, put together everything we need to know for hypothesis testing. So make sure you have your notes out next to you when you're doing your worksheet, because you're going to see a lot of similarity between the problems. Good luck, guys.